Center for this evening. Joining us tonight, we have Ms. Brenda Bailey. She is the Supervisor of Gifted Education and Talent Development here with Prince William County Schools. Welcome, Ms. Bailey.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Okay, my session tonight is Gifted at a Glance for Multilingual Learners. And the agenda in our time together is to define gifted, to talk about look-fors through a multilingual lens, so look-fors both at home and at school. We'll talk about the Gifted Education and Talent Development Program and goals, our identification process, and then finally, I'll go over some parent resources. So our focus tonight is on multilingual learners. That's a broad term that includes students who come from all different language backgrounds and are at different stages of learning. We talk about multilingual learners instead of English learners because it really does emphasize that these are students who are learning more than one language, which we consider a strength, not a weakness. So even though the category you'll hear in the data is English learners, we use multilingual learners to really emphasize the strengths that come along with being multilingual. So in Prince William County Schools, we've made great strides to increase the number of English learners in the Gifted Education program. This slide was shared by Dr. McDade in October of 2024, and you can see since June of 2022 until June of 2024, we've grown our English learners by 16.4% in the Gifted program. So we're very excited by that progress, and we continue to work hard to find these students and grow their potential through Gifted Education services. So Prince William County uses the definition that comes from the state of Virginia. So when we talk about a gifted student, that's a student who demonstrates high levels of accomplishment or who shows exceptional academic potential beyond their age peers of similar experience or environment. So we identify in 5 different areas in Prince William County Schools. In kindergarten through 12th grade, we identify in general intellectual aptitude, and that means the student's strengths go beyond just one subject area, and it's not necessarily just tied to a particular area. Kindergarten through 12th grade, we also identify in the area of language and in math. And then once students are in middle school, we start identifying in history and science as well. So when we talk about gifted learners and we think about what might you notice at home that is a characteristic of giftedness, I have this list here of things that you may observe in interacting with your child at home. So because our session tonight is on multilingual learners, I focused my first bullet on quick to learn second language. The research tells us that students who can pick up more than one language more rapidly than their peers, that shows a real strength verbally. So that is something we look for at home, and we also look for it at school. Some other things that you may notice with your children at home is that they're curious. They have a questioning attitude. They observe things. They have a vivid imagination. They learn quickly. Many times we see students with sophisticated sense of humor, like they understand jokes that are more adult or more mature for their age. And they tell jokes that seem to have a more sophisticated sense of humor. Students who have exceptional memory, they're sensitive to world issues and fairness and justice. Oftentimes our gifted learners have strong communication skills and they're motivated to learn or develop new skills. They can have intense interests. And those interests might not have anything to do with what they're learning in school. And sometimes it is something they learned at school that they want to take further. Finally, you can look for students who enjoy problem solving with numbers and puzzles. So these are just some characteristics you may see at home. Not every gifted student is going to demonstrate all of them. But when you start to think about your own child, if you see many of these bullets describing their behavior at home, then you might start thinking about the potential of them being gifted. We ask our teachers to look for certain things, especially in terms of culturally and linguistically diverse students. When they're looking at their multilingual students in class, we ask them to consider these bulleted descriptors. So again, rapid acquisition of a second language, learns quickly from limited exposure. Oftentimes they have the ability to solve problems that are not dependent on the English language. If English is not their first language, when you remove the language load, they can show their strengths sometimes more obviously. We look for students who are motivated to learn, persistent, self-reliant, students who strive to achieve and want to perform at the highest level possible. Our English learners, our multilingual learners, oftentimes, because they're so aware of world happenings, they can be really sensitive around their culture and be very aware of what's happening in their home country. They have a pride in their native language and culture. We see multilingual learners serving as translators between home and school and the community and having very strong familial connections. They can adapt quickly to a variety of situations and to new surroundings. Oftentimes, our multilingual learners have a preference for collaboration. They want to teach and lead others. So we look for leaders in multiple settings, in the playground, at home, in clubs. We're looking for students with elaborate imagination, rich imagery in their storytelling, and attention to visual details, especially as they're learning the language and their English proficiency is increasing. We look for sort of expressiveness and attention to details that maybe don't involve language. We look for creative productivity, awareness of world happenings, and we are looking for students who navigate behavior successfully between both cultures. So those are just some additional considerations that we ask teachers and educators in the building to look for when they're kind of scouting for potentially gifted students. So what is the Gifted Education and Talent Development Program? So in Prince William County School, we have resource services. So they're pulled out of their regular classroom environment. And those resource services are provided to students whose advanced learning needs cannot be entirely met in the general education classroom. So every school has its own full-time gifted resource teacher, and identified students work with him or her on a regular basis during the school day. I'll talk about each level, elementary, middle, and high, so you can see the amount of service minutes that they get at each level. When they're with the gifted teacher, they engage in challenging units of study that were developed for gifted learners. A lot of our curriculum comes out of universities that write curriculum specifically for advanced and gifted students. And the curriculum has all been field tested and researched. It's, high quality materials that like William and Mary makes a lot of the units, University of Connecticut. So we utilize researched curriculum that works with gifted learners. We also have independent projects and seminars specifically designed to meet their needs. If you've been in Prince William County for a while, you may have heard our program referred to as START or Signet. Those are terms we don't use anymore, but you still hear them. And so if you hear START, that's referring to our kindergarten through third grade gifted program, and Signet is 4th through 12th grade. Like I said, we don't use those terms anymore, but you're definitely gonna keep hearing them. It's hard to get rid of old habits. So in the gifted education program, our goals are to advance skills in critical thinking, creative thinking, communication, collaboration, and conceptual thinking. Because ultimately, we want to grow independent thinkers and learners, informed and supportive collaborators, and exceptional leaders. We also want to prepare our students when they're in elementary and middle school. We want to prepare them for the advanced coursework in high school, potentially taking dual enrollment classes through a local college, post-secondary education, and their future careers. So everything we do in the gifted program is connected to Virginia SOLs. It's aligned to curriculum, but we really push students to perform at higher levels. They do work oftentimes that's typical for an older grade level than they're currently in. So I want to walk you through elementary, middle, and high school gifted services. Before I start, I just want to let you know that once a student qualifies for gifted services, they don't go through the evaluation process again. So what that means is elementary services will just continue on into middle, which will continue on into high school. There's no reevaluation that takes place. Everything will be seamless between the levels. So at the elementary level, we have gifted services at every elementary school. We have a full-time teacher at every school. Some schools, because of their enrollment, have more than one teacher, but you know that every school has its own program and its own teacher. The services that we provide increase as students get older. So we start with our kindergarten students at only 25 minutes a week. The work we do in the gifted program is very challenging, and it can be exhausting for students to think, so hard during that time. And our littlest learners in kindergarten, we keep that at 25 minutes a week. And then as they get older, you can see the amount of time increases. So our first and second graders receive services 45 minutes a week. Third graders receive services 90 minutes a week. And our fourth and fifth graders receive 225 minutes a week of gifted services. And the reason it's 225 is that's essentially an academic school day. So when you take out things like lunch and recess and encore, and morning announcements and afternoon announcements, when you're just looking at the academic time, it's about 225 minutes. So one day a week, students in fourth and fifth grade spend their day with the gifted teacher during that time. We also know that gifted students are not just gifted on the day they go to the gifted resource room, they're gifted 5 days a week. So we cluster group them in classrooms with teachers who've earned their gifted accreditation, and that's a local requirement. We ask all classroom teachers who work with gifted kiddos to have 18 hours of training in identifying gifted learners as well as differentiating instruction for them. So we cluster group our gifted students in the regular classroom, and our gifted teachers work with the classroom teachers to write yearly differentiated services plans. And those are presented to parents in November so that you understand how the gifted teacher and the classroom teacher are working together to meet your child's academic needs. We don't have report cards in gifted, but we do have progress reports. And in elementary school, you get 2 progress reports a year. One in February at the end of the first semester, and a second one in June at the end of the school year. As I said, if your student is gifted in elementary school, that transfers right up with them to middle school. We also have a gifted program and gifted teachers at every middle school in Prince William County Schools. Our services are delivered a little bit differently. So instead of pulling out 6th and 7th graders from an academic subject or from a class, we actually schedule gifted services into their schedule. So they will receive 2 quarters per year on the arts rotation of gifted services. And then in 8th grade, depending on their schedule and whether or not they have room for an elective course, we either schedule a course or we do a pull-out resource program for them, and we typically pull them out of PE for 25 hours per year. 8th graders, actually 6th, 7th, and 8th graders all have the opportunity to participate in extended or more challenging academic courses. We have an extended math track. We actually have a double extended math track. We have extended language arts, and we also have for our 8th graders the opportunity to take high school credit classes. So world languages, algebra, geometry, so they can start to earn high school credit in 8th grade. We also have yearly differentiated service plans and quarterly progress reports in middle school. Moving on to high school. So Prince William County is actually one of the very few high schools in Virginia, one of the few school divisions that has high school gifted services. We have on-site gifted teachers and gifted services at every high school. So while most school divisions in Virginia consider their advanced courses gifted services, we have all of those advanced courses. We have AP, IB, and Cambridge courses. But in addition to that, we have direct resource options for our gifted learners. So we have pull-out Socratic seminars, 18 hours per year, where students are pulled out of their courses and they have a college small group seminar experience. We have credit-bearing courses that we call them GEMS, or Gifted Education Multidisciplinary Seminars, where 11th and 12th graders can take an entire year of our gifted seminars. We have AP seminar and AP research. That gives them a similar experience, except those are weighted credits. So students can have a seminar experience and earn those weighted credits if they're interested in that. Garfield and Unity Read, those are IB schools. They have Theory of Knowledge, which is run very much like a gifted course. Brentsville and Potomac has ACE Thinking Skills and Global Perspectives. Those are both Cambridge classes that really focus in on higher level thinking skills. We also have partnerships with Governor School at Innovation Park in Manassas and Thomas Jefferson in Fairfax. So we do have Governor School opportunities for our gifted learners and summer programs, which are getting ready to start pretty soon. So in Virginia, we have Governor's School programs all throughout the state at universities where rising 11th and 12th graders can have a residential college experience for 2 or 3 weeks. So they're living on campus and they are taking classes, but also having fun and experiencing college life at no cost to them. So Prince William County pays for the students if they apply and get accepted. We pay for them to participate in Governor School in the summer. So I want to spend a few minutes talking about our identification process in Prince William County Schools. So it is a multi-criteria process. And what that means is that we look at many different pieces of evidence and many different types of data and evidence. And a piece of evidence does not make a student gifted, and the reverse of that, like one piece of evidence doesn't keep a student out of the gifted program. So we look at a very comprehensive picture of the student as a learner. So our process can take up to 90 instructional days because it is so comprehensive and we do collect a lot of information. It starts with a referral. Students can be referred by professionals, by parents, they can refer themselves, or they can be referred through universal screening. And I'll go into more detail about these in just a minute. When we have parent permission to proceed, we start the collection of evidence and we collect aptitude test scores. We look at their academic record, parent reports, student reports. We ask the teachers to write a report. We collect work samples. We administer a math problem set, a controlled writing, and we look at all of the achievement data that a student may have in their academic record. After all of those things are collected, an IDP, or Identification and Placement Committee, come together, and that committee includes an administrator, a counselor, classroom teachers, and a gifted teacher. And because this session is about multilingual learners, I just want everyone to be aware that if a student receives ESOL services, then their ESOL teacher is also at the table. And we count on that professional to give us more information about the student's language acquisition. I mean, they really have an opportunity to advocate for the student that they work with. So we include ESOL teachers, we include special education teachers, and they meet to review all of the evidence that was collected and to make decisions about the eligibility and placement for gifted services. So all of these decisions are made at the local level, and then they are reviewed by a team at the division level. So I am part of a division level oversight committee, and there's a group of us that reviews every decision that's made at the school level to make sure that this decision was made correctly. So they followed the procedure and all of the information was accurate. And then once we have verified the decisions, written notifications of the decisions are mailed home. So let's talk about the referral process. So everyone on this call is aware that parents can refer students at any time during the school year. So at this point, now that we're getting close to the end of May, we wouldn't have a decision this year, but we could certainly start the process. So we take referrals at any time. Remember, it can take up to 90 instructional days to complete. So if you were to refer your child tomorrow and completed the permission, you would most likely have a decision next September. You can get this referral form from our website. at Prince William PWCS.edu, and you would just search for gifted education and talent development, and you would find this form and submit it to your child's school. Also on our website, you'll see the names of all of our gifted resource teachers. So if you complete the form, you can email it directly to the gifted teacher, or you can print a copy and bring it to school. We also have professional referrals and universal screening. So if a professional, a teacher or a counselor or an administrator or a specialist of some sort, refers your child, that means that their academic achievement or potential stands out among his or her peers. So by referring your child, we're taking a closer look at their strengths and their learning needs to determine if the gifted program is appropriate for them. So we take professional referrals from anyone. You can see, like I said earlier, teachers, specialists, counselors, administrators. We also have universal screening. And what that means is we look at certain pieces of data across the board. So with our English learners or our multilingual learners, we look for that rapid acquisition of language. When we looked at those look fors, and I had really emphasized how important it is to look for rapid acquisition of language, we use 2 consecutive years of access scores, and we determine what is a typical amount of growth between 2 years and identify students who are acquiring a second language faster than the norm or faster than their peers. And then we add them to a gifted screening pool. So that's the universal screening part of it. We also give a test called the Naglieri Nonverbal Ability Test to every 2nd, 6th, and 9th grader in Prince William County Schools. And then we look to see those results, and we use those results to build a screening pool. Remember, I said earlier, our system is multi-criteria. So that means if a student did incredibly well on this test, that doesn't make them gifted, but that is a piece to the puzzle. And that would bring them to our attention, and we would bring them through the identification process. And that would be a strong piece of supportive evidence. We would also collect other information as well. In 3rd grade, every student in Prince William County takes the cognitive abilities test, and we use that as a universal screener. So we're looking for students who perform at a high level, and we bring them into the gift identification process if they score really high. Again, the Naglieri Nonverbal Ability Test is a nonverbal measure of general ability. It's culturally neutral. There are no words or language involved in the test. And so I wanted to spend a minute looking at this, since we're talking about multilingual learners who may not have the language proficiency yet on a more language heavy test. So the NNAT is online. It's pretty quick. It only takes about 30 minutes. And it measures how students think, not how much they know, but how they think. And there are questions that are in different categories: pattern completion, reasoning by analogy, serial reasoning, and spatial visualization. So let me show you what I mean by that, a nonverbal way to assess your thinking. So on the left, you can see this is a verbal analogy. Boy is to man like girl is to blank. Well, in order to complete this analogy, you have to know the words boy, man, girl, and then you also need to know the word that goes into the question mark, right? So boy is to man like girl is to woman. That would be a fairly easy analogy if you were an English speaker. So if you look at the same problem on the right without words, you can see the thinking is still being measured. It's just being measured visually through these shapes and colors. So you can see white circle is to blue circle, like a white square would be to blue square. So you're measuring that same thinking, but in a way that doesn't use language. So the NNAT has been really helpful for us to find students who are not proficient in the English language yet, or also students who may have a disability where reading doesn't come easily to them. So this is a way for us to measure general ability. But once we have the referral, whether it be your referral as a parent, a professional referral, or a referral that comes from one of those tests, we don't move forward until we have your permission. So what will happen is you will get a letter, and the letter will ask you to give permission for evaluation. And you'll also receive a parent report in the letter. And the parent report is a great way for you to share what you're observing at home. So when you see that parent report, it's going to align with those look-fors I shared at the beginning. So the writing is small now, but they're the same descriptors. My child is curious, has a questioning attitude, is a keen observer. My child has a vivid imagination. My child learns quickly. So you would mark not observed, sometimes, frequently, or always, and then you would give us some examples, and I'll walk you through a few in just a minute. This is your opportunity to tell us more about your child, especially things you observe at home that maybe teachers are not observing at school. So you can get this form electronically, so you can type instead of handwrite. You can get this translated into multiple languages if you prefer to complete it in Spanish or Arabic or whatever your preferred language is. We also can complete this as an interview. So if you would like to have an interview over the phone in your home language, we can arrange for an interpreter to talk with you over the phone to complete this. So let's look at this in a little closer detail. So what you're going to do is rate each descriptor and then give us an example or two. So here is one, just as an example. My child is curious, has a questioning attitude, is a keen observer. This parent marked frequently. And their examples were that he asks about construction sites and the process of building new structures, notices small differences between houses. Here's another example. My child has a vivid imagination. Remember that not every gifted child is going to demonstrate every one of these characteristics. So I wanted to show you that it's okay to not mark always every time. So the first one the parent marked always and wrote, she writes elaborate plays and stories in her journal. She creates detailed illustrations in her notebooks, uses coding to create worlds of her own, and writes original songs with lyrics and music. So that is definitely, that's always, those are lots of really great examples. You don't have to write paragraphs, right? You're just giving us some ideas of things you're observing at home. But not every gifted student has a vivid imagination. So the next example, the parent marked not observed. And the parent wrote, he's a very factual kid and is not interested in make-believe plays or stories. And that's completely fine. That would not hurt the student's overall evaluation, because we know that every gifted student and every student is unique and has strengths and areas that are going to pop more than other areas. Here's another example. My child has a subtle or sophisticated sense of humor. First parent said always. She understands sarcasm and dry humor when others use it. She easily banters back and forth with children and adults older than her, and she tells jokes kids her age don't understand. Then we have a sometimes. He can understand and find humor in TV shows and stories, but doesn't usually come up with jokes or funny stories on his own. And finally, one more example. My child is sensitive to human issues and is concerned with fairness and justice. The parent marked always and wrote, he wanted to collect food and send money to help people impacted by the recent hurricane. He becomes sad when he sees commercials about dogs who need homes and is very concerned with fairness and rule following when playing games at home. So these are all excellent examples of a child being sensitive to, what's going on in the world around them and really having a concern about fairness and justice. So going through the process again, we talked about referral, we talked about permission, we talked about the collection of evidence. The last piece of the puzzle is the committee that comes together and makes the decision. So these are the options that they have available to them. They may find that the student is eligible for services, and then they can decide what services are required. They may monitor the student for further information before a decision can be reached. They may find the student ineligible. And I always like to point out that ineligible does not mean the door is closed and the student is not gifted and can never participate in the gifted program. That simply means the evidence did not support gifted services at that time. but in Prince William County, we can go through the process once a year. So the student can always be brought back at a later time to see if additional evidence is supportive and if the student qualifies the following year. Students in grades kindergarten through 2 may be recommended for the Early Talent Development Program. And the Early Talent Development Program is fairly new for us. We've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years now. And it's a way for us to work with our very youngest learners that aren't in the gifted program yet, but that show potential for identification in 3rd grade. So we work really closely with the classroom teacher and with the students to provide enriching opportunities and extension activities that foster students' talents and strengths. And we build a portfolio for those students and bring them back in 3rd grade. So we have a lot of success in sort of finding these kids early, nurturing and working with them and their teachers, and then building up their portfolio for gifted identification in 3rd grade. I also wanted to make you aware that we have an appeals process in place. So when you get the decision, if you disagree with the decision or you want it looked at again, we do have a separate committee that will review cases. As long as you let the gifted teacher, or you can let me know that you would like to appeal the decision within 10 days, we will schedule an appeals appointment, and that will be a more in-depth review of your child's case. And it gives you an opportunity to provide additional data and information and have the case looked at again. So if you have any questions about identification, or if I went through this quickly, know that we have webinars and information on our gifted website. So if you go to pwcs.edu, you can go to families, academic programs, and gifted ed. Or what I always like to tell parents, it's so much easier to go up into that search bar on the upper right and just put in gifted education. And what you will get is this page. And the identification process, I circled it in yellow. When you get to that section, there are webinars in English and in Spanish, so you can hear it narrated in either language, or you can get transcripts in all of the other languages that you see. In addition to Spanish and English, we have Arabic, Chinese, Farsi, Korean, Pashto, Urdu, and Vietnamese. So this webinar, it's about 20 minutes long, and it walks you through everything I talked about today and even more. Like, it just gives you more details and more examples from the parent report, and you can watch it at any point. So those are on our website. I'm going to spend the last few minutes talking about ways that you can support your gifted child at home. So this information comes from the National Association of Gifted Children, and they have many parent tip sheets and give guidance and information to families on how to challenge and enrich your student. So I'm going to go through these and give you some examples as we go. So the first one is to collect resources on your child's topics of interest, such as books, videos, and websites. We know gifted kids can have intense interests. And as I said earlier, they're not always connected to school. So sometimes they need your help to access resources. So if that means a trip to the public library or helping them find some appropriate videos or websites online where they can research and learn more. They can be voracious consumers of information. So you can help guide them to find appropriate for their age resources. And that's always very helpful. And to talk to them about those resources and about what they're learning. So we talk about those dinner time conversations, but making time, whether it be at dinner, in the morning, before bed, make time to talk to your child every day. Encourage his or her active questioning. So you want to get to know what is of interest to them and what they're learning at school or learning on their own. And that time when you're interacting with them, ask them questions about what they're learning, not yes or no questions, but questions that will really stimulate conversation. Help your child find peers or groups who share similar interests. Sometimes our gifted learners can feel kind of alone if they don't feel that other kids their age share their interests. So if you can help a child find a peer group or find others who share their interests, through clubs or activities, or maybe through your neighborhood. That's always really helpful to kind of help schedule play dates and time together with other students who have similar interests. It's also easy to forget that your child is just a child, because you can hear how they talk and they use really adult vocabulary and can talk about advanced topics and have conversations with adults. So this is just a reminder to remember that even though they're presenting in a more adult-like way, that they are just kids. So remember to allow them the freedoms or responsibilities that are appropriate for their individual age and emotional and social development. Next, I talked about gifted students being highly observant and sensitive. So sometimes kids don't know what to do when they're really upset about a hurricane or, an issue happening in another country. They can feel really frustrated because they are sensitive to these issues, but they don't know what they personally can do. And that's when we encourage you to model behavior and respect of others that you would expect of your child, and find opportunities for him or her to participate in acts of service that can make a difference, whether it be a lemonade stand to raise money for cancer research, or collecting canned goods for the local homeless shelter, like just ways that they can channel that concern and sensitivity in a way that makes a difference. There are also so many ways to challenge your gifted learners outside of school. We are so lucky in Prince William County and in Northern Virginia to have so many enriching opportunities at our disposal. So I always encourage parents to look for things that are available outside of school. So library events in Prince William County are almost always free. We have a great library system in Prince William. So in addition to getting your library card, check out the events. They often have highly engaging, interesting events for kids of all ages. And it's a great way for kids to not only learn about a topic of interest, but interact with other kids who share that interest. We have museums not only in Prince William County, but there's museums in the whole Washington, D.C. area that are available, just amazing resources. And the Prince William County Parks and Rec program, they also have quite a few options and clubs and lessons and activities that typically don't have a high price tag associated with them. So check out those things. When you get this PowerPoint, these are hyperlinks you'll be able to click on. And finally, encourage your child to take risks. And I don't mean safety risks, I mean intellectual risks. And that means to encourage your child to do something they may not be good at, instead of shying away from things that they're afraid they're going to fail at. So we encourage them to take risks, to try new things, to celebrate mistakes as learning opportunities. And a great way to model that as adults, when you make a mistake, show your child that it's okay, like model positive ways to problem solve and grow. And when you mess up or do something wrong, like show them how to make a learning opportunity out of that mistake and correct it without like punishment or getting upset about it. It really is a great life lesson to encourage your child to take risks in their learning. So there are so many additional parent resources, again, that you can find on our website. So there is a link called Resources for Parents and Families, and it is filled with all sorts of curated resources that we have identified for you and put in there. You're going to find general information about gifted learners. You're going to find activity books if you want to get some books or resources for students to work in. We have parenting books listed. So if you want to read about parenting gifted learners, there's several recommended books there. So many enrichment camps and programs in Prince William and across the state of Virginia. And there's even some national camps that are listed, and the links to get to those camps and the application process. Some are free, some have a cost attached. All the information is on a table with links. We also have some recommended games. We really do promote games because they're such a great way for you to interact with your kids and to do thinking in a way that's fun versus, workbooks and activities that feel kind of like, just work. Games exercise different parts of your brain while having fun. There's also gifted organizations listed and websites that you can safely refer your student to for learning opportunities. So I'm going to end on the power of games, because in our gifted program, we play games quite often, and not games of chance or luck. These are games that really require thinking and strategy. So we often talk about the power of games, and there's a lot of research related to this. Games provide a way for children to explore different ways of thinking, moving, and interacting with others. Strategy games allow opportunities to practice using skills like higher order thinking, questioning, and problem solving. On our website, you'll see many different options for games and ideas that we have kind of a list we've curated for you. But there are many that we play in our gifted program. And as a part of our thank you for attending the webinar tonight, we are going to get the names of just randomly 2 or 3 parents who attended tonight, and you will win one of our gifted games. And what I will do is I will put it in our interoffice mail to your child's teacher, and they will give it to your child, and you can have you can enjoy a family game, again, as a thank you for attending. So that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for being with me. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is baileybs@pwcs.edu. It's also at the beginning of this webinar. So once you get access to it, you'll see my email there. And again, thank you very much for attending.
Thank you so much, Brenda, for joining us tonight. And thank you, families, for joining us as well. And as Ms. Bailey said, it will be a random drawing. So you'll receive communication, and so we'll make sure that that gets to you. Please know that you will receive a copy of today's presentation as well as the video recording. And I will make sure to include Ms. Bailey's contact information, as well as some of the resources that she also spoke about that are also embedded into the presentation. We have placed a short survey in the chat. Please just take a few minutes to fill that out. Let us know how we're doing and the type of programming you want to see in the future. So thank you again for joining us this evening, and I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you.